All right, this is PCEP and GPT, and you are going to get a dose, a big dose of prompt engineering today. We're going to prompt engineer ourselves all the way through the PCEP exam, which is the interlevel Python. So pretty cool exam to start off with. Just a little bit about myself. I started with punch cards. I would consider myself to be a prompt engineer, and I'll show you prompt engineering the whole presentation today. I am a nuclear physicist, turned programmer, and I now work for a Fortune 500 company in the Cincinnati area. I have about 28 certs and counting. I do about a cert every month, and that's not including recertifications. But the problem with having so many certs is that you're also certifying as you're certifying. So it's crazy. With that said, we'll move on. Today, we're going to give you an intro and icebreaker about this exam, prompt engineering. We're going to big dose, like I said, example questions, and the final example, which will be a game example. All right, with that said, up and coming, we've got today, which is acing the PCEP. LangChain is used to basically put all these applications together. So if you want to string a whole set of generative AI applications together, like in a chain, or if you want to bring in a vector database and do some really cool stuff, that's what that will be about. So I'm excited about this presentation. But then the cloud practitioner, all the way to the professional, we'll do on the 21st of October, then mastering HashiCorp, and then becoming a BI data analyst, and then also another BI data analyst GP 500 the next month, and prepping for the IBM Certified Associate Developer Quantum Computation exam. So I get the Donovan Scholarship in March, which means I go to Kentucky schools for free, and I'll be finishing up my PhD in quantum computing. Excited about that. A little bit about Mike's standard intro. Yes, now we are no longer hand stitching, but code is being made by machines. And what we've done is we've learned how to put human intelligence in the box, and basically we've solved the Tower of Babel problem. We have a universal translator that also codes. That's amazing. AI won't take your job. People who use AI will. And why? Because the product of generative AI is efficiency. Keep that in mind. I like to give this story. The product of Waterfall was a report. The product of Agile was potentially deliverable software. The product of DevOps is deliverable software. The product of AI is efficiency. Be aware. So don't be afraid of AI. AI is nothing to be afraid of. Just be afraid of humans that use it. And if you're watching what's happening in Ukraine, you can see how AI, it's become a drone AI war, which is, I'm previous military, so I'm going, oh my goodness. With that said, what is your value now? Because you're going to find a lot of stuff, and you're going to see it today. A lot of stuff took me like weeks to do. I can now do in minutes. And so what's my value? The stuff I spent my lifetime learning how to do can be done by machines and more efficiently by machines and much more rapidly. And my ability is the ability to sculpt, right? To put it together and to know if it's real, know if it's working. And so these things will illustrate today. All right, with that said, here's the icebreaker. Ethical question. What happens to copyright when you use someone else's work as a prompt and it creates a totally different work? Wow. So anyway, good discussion. We're going to move on. If you have any comments on that, please put them in the chat, and I'll look at that. Ali says it's different than school because profit. Hello, yeah. Thanks, Ali, for that comment. I agree with that one.
I'm an instructional designer myself, but a
Yeah,
long
yeah,
history of public school teaching, and that's
yeah.
kind of how we always drew the line. It's like, well, is anyone going to make money from this? No. Well,
Absolutely.
okay.
Oh, good. The link for the certified cybersecurity is up. Thank you, Lisa, for posting that. I'm actually going to copy that. You can get a certified security license now for free. For the first million, I think you said. Is that right, Lisa? And then I'll paste that right here so I have it, and we can take a look at that later. All right, just a little bit about the actual exam itself. If you go to pythoninstitute.org, you will see there's several exams that you can take to become proficient in Python. The first one is the PCEP. That's the 30 exam. And that's just the intro level exam. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to use a lot of prompt engineering on it. And then the next exam would be the associate exam, the PCAP 31, and then the professional PCPP. And they have a series of other exams that you can take as well. All right. So if you're looking for exams to take or come to speed on Python, this is a great place to start. I love certifications in the sense people think a lot about them. What is the actual level of knowledge this person needs to know at this level? And Ali, I think you being a teacher and instructional designer, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to building curriculum for people. You're actually trying to, stage that course for that level of learner. With that said, what is in this exam? There's 4 domains. The first domain, section 1, is computer programming and Python fundamentals. And then next one is control flow, conditional blocks and loops, which is 29%. The next one is data collections, which is tuples, dictionaries, lists, and strings, 25%. And functions and exceptions, 28% of the exam. Basically, you can take it proctored or non-proctored. I love proctored exams. It's 45 minutes and 30 questions. The question types are basically, multiple choice, drag and drop, some fill in the blank, I think, or single choice, excuse me. Cost is $59. This is the cheap one. The next one goes up into the, I think, 200 plus. And then the passing for this exam is 70%. Excellent. Now I go ahead and put my study guide, my study plan for passing this exam. And so Udemy has some nice courses on this. And what you want to do with Udemy, always wait for the deal. Okay. So whenever I'm thinking about courses for exams and I'm actually looking for a great deal, I'll go to Udemy and I'll wait for the deal. And sometimes one day it'll be $124 and another day it'll be 19. And with that said, I always tell people wait for the deal. Andrea Welch has a great course for entry level. It's only 5 hours long. And Sandeep has a nice little question dump. Now, I always like question dumps because I used to be a fighter in the military. So I was trained in martial arts. And you never went into the ring unless you, studied your opponent first. So you want to make sure that you study some of these dumps, not in the sense that you're trying to memorize the answers, but you're preparing yourself for the type of questions and how the exam's going to feel. You don't want to ever get into exam and feel, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this. This is something new. And what I like to do is I like to start looking at dumps and start looking at the looking at exams, and also I like looking at the video course at the same time, because as you start looking at exam questions, exam-like questions, and you start studying those, it kind of cements in your mind when you see it in the video presentation. So it's good to have the both. And Adrian Welch also has a dump. Now, in addition, I said, let's have some fun. So you want to do prompt engineering all the way. I'm going to show you how to do that today. And also, Penny DeBile has a nice gaming course in Python. And she starts from the very beginning, and you can use ChatGPT actually to learn to use ChatGPT by prompting those game prompts. So we're actually going to prompt an entire game using ChatGPT today, and you can see how that works, okay? So do questions as you go through the video course. Make games using ChatGPT to stay entertained. So I love to do this when I'm studying for an exam, to create for myself entertainment to keep me engaged. So that's what I'm trying to say. All the links are here for you to go through my study plan. Let's have fun study plan. And I hope you find this useful. Okay, with that said, I want to make mention of what Udemy has done. We're going to take a look at Adrian Welch's course right now. They actually now have instituted labs. So you can actually do a lab right in the course. So we'll go take a look at his course real quick. And what we'll do is show you those labs. All right. So if you purchase Adrian's course and you go in there, let me go ahead and bring up a prompt, excuse me. His course will look like this. And I actually did take this course. I thought it was really good. And he has these coding exercises, and this is really nice. And this is a brand new feature of Udemy. And so you can see I clicked on the coding exercise, and there came up the code. And so he's going to ask you a question. Let's practice the print function. It's the first thing you learn in Python. Show the following message to the output. And so you actually type in your answer here, and you can run the code. Okay. And it runs the code for you, and then you can run the test. Cool. And so he has a ton of these. If you go through here, throughout his entire presentation, he has coding examples spread all the way through. So you can go in there and get some practice working with the code. And you can see how I work through all the code examples. All right. And nice course. And the code examples are a nice touch for Udemy. I also believe they are bringing on the cloud as well. So there will be a cloud sandbox as well, but I believe you'll pay a little extra for that. Okay, with that said, let's move on. I want to make sure I pointed that out because that's a nice new feature of Udemy. All right, with that said, typically what I do is when I'm looking at a course and I want to find out something about it, I'll bring up ChatGPT, and let me just do that for you. And you can get that through OpenAI. And I have ChatGPT 4, so I pay $20 a month for that. And I would go into and do a prompt on that. And the prompt I typically put in there is, well, give me an outline of the PCEP. So when I do that, I'll show you what I get. Sure, it's going to give me something like it. It knows what it is. It's the Python Certified Entry Level certification. But guess what? When I look at this outline, this outline is wrong. And the reason this outline is wrong is that ChatGPT 4 only goes back to 2021. So this exam was changed recently. So what do? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Bing instead. Okay. So I bring up Bing, which has a ChatGPT interface that is current to the web. And this is free, by the way, and it also does images. And if you go to more creative, you can do images as well. So I'll put that in there, and that will give me the current outline. There you go. And so that's the actual current outline for the course. And what's nice about Bing Chat is also it gives you references. So you can get references, and this will actually give you the syllabus for the course as well. Okay. Gives you the price, what the passing percentage is, and lots of nice things. Okay. And within Bing, I got the syllabus, and I also got what the difference was between the two exams. So you can see it combined module 1 and 2 for the new PCEP O2 exam. There's a syllabus, and I just grabbed it, cut and paste it, and I turn it into a prompt. Not into a prompt yet, but I'm going to turn it into a prompt. So with that said, that's my syllabus, and go back to my slide deck. All right, so I pasted the syllabus in. Now, it's not formatted very well, but ChatGPT doesn't care about formatting. But I do want to make a point. If you have a problem with formatting, okay, as opposed to going in and making corrections to everything, fixing everything, I highly suggest that you don't do that. You let artificial intelligence do that for you. And I'm going to give you an example of one right now. What I have right here is the syllabus for networking. And this is just a mess, right? And it's not very human readable. Now, artificial intelligence doesn't care, but I do. And so if I want to build a course, a curriculum out of it, I'm going to have to go in there and reformat that by hand, which is going to take hours. Well, don't do that anymore. Okay. Use AI to do that. And one nice system is Claude. Claude 2 is an AI system. And I like Claude because it takes about 4 times as much data as ChatGPT does. So if you have a lot of data you need to work with, Claude's a good option. So we're gonna reformat this in Claude. So I'm going to Claude 2. I'm going to say, okay, let's reformat, make readable, but keep exact content. So I don't want to lose any content, right? And then I'm going to paste that in. And Claude throws it into a file, and you're going to run that. And immediately, Claude's going to do all that formatting for you. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're an instructional designer, Ali, and you have had to work with a lot of files like this, you just earned the price of the course, right? Which was free anyway, but this is worth your while because suddenly you just got hours of work done for you, with just the press of a button. And I ended up the other day spending like 2 hours just reformatting something like this. And then I went, wait a second, I can just do this with Claude. So there you go, which saved me tons of time. Okay. Any questions about that so far? So far we've discussed 3 generative AI systems that are out there for you to use. One is ChatGPT 4. The other is Bing, which is free, and you have Bing Chat. And if you use Creative, you can always also create images that are free. Additionally, you just saw Claude 2. Now, with that said, I want to take this and I actually want to do something different that we don't do with syllabi right now because it's too complicated, but you can do it very easily with ChatGPT. And what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to take this area here. I want to prompt it to create a definition, a multiple choice question, and an explanation of that multiple choice question. So I'm going to create prompts to do that, and I'm going to do that for the entire syllabus. Okay. Now, let me ask you, how long do you think it would take me to do that manually? To create perfectly syntactical questions that are perfectly written, that cover each topic in this syllabus, giving a definition, a question, an explanation of that question. How long do you think that would take me to do? Days. Tim Foster says days. Oh, thank you, Tim, thank you for my service. Yeah. Oh, and thank you for your service as well, Tim. Okay, so I'm going to give you my number. My number is, I think this would take me about 3 weeks. Okay. So I took this into ChatGPT. I used the prompt, I'm going to explain prompts to you in a moment, but the prompt I used for this first one was I took the syllabus here. Here's the topic, and I said, add a definition of the topic, a PCP exam question. Add a definition of the topic, a PCP exam question with multiple options and explanation of the answer for the following topics under understanding fundamental terms and definitions. And then I listed all those topics, just cut and paste it. And that was my prompt. And when I did that, it gave me a definition of the first topic, and it gave me a multiple choice question, and it gave me the explanation for that multiple choice question. And I did that for all of them, and I created 40 pages of questions, of definitions, questions, and explanations, and a lot of it was code as well. And I did all that in 2 hours while watching TV with my wife. And so we'll take a look at one of these, Recursion. Recursion is a programming technique where a function calls itself in order to solve a problem. And this falls under, if you go up to the top where we looked at the actual syllabus, it falls under the syllabi topic P32 for 1. Okay, so we go back to recursion. And then what they do is they give you an example. Here's some Python code, and it shows a factorial recursion example. It says, what is the result of 5? And when you put 5 in the factorial function, you see the answer is C, 120, and it explains when that's true. So in this, like I said, there was 40 pages of questions just like this. Okay. And not only is this better than what I would have done, I would have never done this. So AI has extended not only what you can do and how fast you can do it, but it's going to create products that you would never envision on creating. And as an instructional designer, it's just pretty rich because when you put a syllabus in front of everybody, their eyes goes blank, right? You're just reading topics. But here you're reading definitions, you're doing example problems, and you're giving solutions. And you want to stick that into someone's brain because what you're doing as an instructional designer is you're telling them how much they need to learn. Your brain will automatically give you the amount of energy you need to learn something, and here it can see it all. So it's a really great concept, and you can do a lot more with that, and we'll show that to you today. Any questions about this so far?
Yeah, are you gonna copyright this?
No. No.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, no problem.
It's all gone to hell in a handbag. And I was talking to my wife, who's also been in academia for years, and we're just trying to figure this out. Like, what just happened, right? What just happened? Thanks for your question. All right, with that said, we're going to proceed with the presentation, and we'll start seeing some real good examples, okay? All right, I want to talk a little bit about building prompts and what's kind of involved here. Really what you're doing is you're bifurcating multidimensional space. And I'm a nuclear physicist, so I did quantum Hilbert space, and so this makes total sense to me. But what I'm doing is I'm going, well, let's find the area of knowledge, right? And that is PCEP. So you have all these places that you can go in multidimensional space, but ChatGPT knows what PCP is. So suddenly you've thrown out all the other stuff, and you're looking at everything under PCEP. And then what is the area that I want to look at? So you give it the area that you want to look at, and suddenly you throw out all the other areas. And then you go, what's the topic under that area? And you give it the topic you want to look at. So that's kind of how these prompts are built. Think of it in terms of, of a tree, and you're navigating down a tree. And so the topics you want to put in your prompt are with that tree. Now, what you get back is another way of, of prompting. You tell it, well, give me a question, or give me this, or do it, or describe this in 3 sentences, not 1, and it'll give you a different output. But navigating to it is pretty much like navigating a tree. I wanted to take a look at one of the questions that we had in the syllabus, and we'll talk about this just a little bit. I want to use this as an example in a sense to get you up and running in Python. Okay, so as a programmer, I think one of the difficult things that I find is actually the difficulty is actually getting started, right? Getting everything installed. Having an environment to play around in, like a sandbox. Well, you've already got one in Python, a really good one. Now, there's 3 things I typically use when it comes to Python. I use Google Colab, I can use Visual Studio Code, or I use PyCharm. And typically I run to PyCharm, or if I need something fast, Google Colab. So if you have a Gmail address, you can immediately start programming in Python without installation of anything. So let's go to Google Colab and show that to you, okay? Colab, just type in Colab. And when you do that, you have the option of Google Colab. And I've already been working in it, but you have this environment. So if you hit plus here, you get this little bar down here where you can start putting Python code in. And so I like to double check everything that's coming out of ChatGPT to see if it's actually working and correctly, or if it's bogus. And so we've got this question that was generated in the syllabus. It's and basically the definition here, the order in which except blocks are placed matters. Python will match the exception with the first matching except block. Therefore, more specific exceptions should be listed before the generic ones. And so they give you this problem where you have a try catch statement, right, or try except statement, and say you're going to do division by 0, but it has an exception, which is print generic exception first, and the other one is 0 division effect error. Well, it is a 0 division error, but you put the generic one first, it's going to grab that one and print it. And it explains that in the problem. And you can see the answer here is A, it does a generic, but you should have put 0 division first, a more specific one. But I don't know if that's really going to work or not. So I actually want to put that into Google Colab. So I have the code down here below. And I'm going to do something real quick here so you guys can see. If I wanted ChatGPT to explain this code to me, I could actually just throw it into ChatGPT. And if I do that, let's see if I got an admission here. Good. I could say explain. And I can put that in there and it'll explain the code to me. And so that's another way of learning Python that's very easy with ChatGPT is you no longer have to run to a book to get an explanation. It'll go ahead and it'll explain to you. And so if you hit something you don't understand, especially if you're doing AWS as well, what is this? I was doing something in AWS today, and I'm always seeing terms I've never seen before. And I just type into ChatGPT and it explains to me immediately. So this is one way to learn a language without actually having to go to a book. Now I'm going to take this code and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into Colab and I'm going to run it. So you paste it in Colab and you're going to run it. And you see it gave me the generic exception, just like it said. So it's actually working. But here's a way to actually test and to program and start using Python without having to do all those heavy installs that we typically have to do to get a software program up and running on our local. Okay, let you know, guys, that exists. All right, and we'll use it a few times today. We'll move on to this. There's your Google Colab example. We went through the syllabus example. And now we're going to take a look at even a tougher problem. So ChatGPT, once again, helps you tackle those difficult problems, okay? Are there any questions so far before we proceed? All right, so ChatGPT is a great way to be used to tackle difficult problems, but there's several ways you can do that. You can use it to explain the problem. You can run it but you can use it to create a similar problem. And we're going to actually look at that today. So we've already showed you how to run these problems in Google Colab. And so I think this is a difficult problem. I look at it and go, man, as soon as I get below 2 levels, my brain has to think. And so that can be difficult. So I go, this is tough. So let me see what the answer would be. So I'm going to throw this into Google Colab first, okay? So I go ahead and grab this question into Colab, and we'll run it. And you can see the answer is, let's see here. There you go, it's 25. That's the answer. But it still doesn't help me. I mean, I really don't understand the question. So, because I'm dumb. So I need something to explain it to me. So I get ChatGPT to explain this to me. So what I do is I throw it in ChatGPT and I say, explain it. And so you can see I put the question in ChatGPT. Let's just run it without even saying anything. Let's run it to see if it'll explain it to me. And there you go. It's going to explain to me how this question works. So if you don't understand the problem, well, I'm really scratching my head over that. How does it work? Throw it in ChatGPT. And what ChatGPT is showing you, well, what the question does, it generates an array of 2 numbers, 32, 32, 32, 32, 5 times. It adds those together, okay, in the summation. And that's where you get your 25, 5 times 5. Wow, that's pretty cool. I like that. At that point, now we hit our ethical issue. Oh, I really like that. I wonder if ChatGPT can create a question like this for me. All right, let's do that. So I'm gonna go back there, and I'm gonna say, and it keeps context. Okay, so create a similar question with multiple options, multiple choice options. And as soon as I do that, it's going to construct a similar question. Oh, yeah. Okay, so my copyright guys, who we discussed this with at the beginning, is this copyrighted? So not only did it give me a different question, it gave me a question with something this question didn't have. This is a more complicated question. So not only have I used someone else's question, right, that was copyrighted as a prompt, but the result is more complicated and is different. So is this copyrighted? So the answer to this one is I just took this guy's work, which he probably spent hours on, and with no work at all, I created something that's a little bit actually a more complicated problem. And there's no way, unless I tell you, that you would know that this problem came from that one. So I guess it's an ethical issue that I mean I struggle with it a little bit because it's like you get your money for nothing, right? And it's like there was no work here. Oh, with that done, so you can see it's really easy to change one problem into another. And if you're studying for these exams and you need another example, that's great to do. But there's one more thing you can do. You can take this and say turn it into a game. Okay, so let's say turn it into a game. So I come along here and I'm going to go right into here and I'm going to put this in and it's got a memory of what I've done because it keeps the chat memory and it's going to turn into a game. And so what it's going to do for me now, if I go down here, it's actually going to write a Python game that I can play to help me learn this concept. Now, there's another point I want to make here is that whenever you're learning a new language, you typically spend a long time learning syntax, right? Before you can even write anything. But with ChatGPT, you're immediately writing code. And you might want to look at this as you're learning the language and try to figure out what these different things do. Now, if you don't know what they do, all you have to do is ask ChatGPT, please explain this. So you can say, explain the code. And now ChatGPT will be your teacher and it'll explain every part of the code for you and what it's doing. This is a random mode. This is a definition. This X and Y range is what it does. So actually go through and explain the code for you. Now, if you get tired of listening to it, just hit stop generating. Shut it up. All right, we're gonna copy this code here and see if it runs. Okay. All right, this one has an error. So what I would do is I would take this line of code right here, and we're going to do this again. And so I'm going to show this to you again. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on this example. But what I'd want to do with this is go right into ChatGPT and say, when running the code, I got this error. Please fix. And so what ChatGPT will do, it'll take that error, it'll regenerate your code with the fix. And we've got an example of that coming up on a game we're going to create. So I'll move on from now. So we spend a lot of time fixing this one because we got one we're going to show you. Okay.
If I don't know some kind of concept, I usually like go to ChatGPT and just ask it, explain me this, explain me that.
Absolutely. Do you feel like they accelerated how fast you're learning?
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. And do you feel like you're putting code out faster?
Yeah. Like before that we had Google and that Stack Overflow, and you had to like look for particular that kind of problem.
Right.
And there are there is no guarantee that somebody had the same problem that you have. You could have seen different variations, and you should have browsed all these variations to find out, does this thing apply to my situation or not? With ChatGPT, you just like you can ask a lot of questions and finally arrive to some close explanation or solution.
Yeah, it's like automagical. It's pretty amazing. With that said, I like to toot another horn here, and that's Penny DeBile. She has a nice Python course on Udemy. And what I like to do is just go through this course piece by piece and just practice prompt engineering. She'll write some code and then I'll write it and test it and then I'll go, oh, now prompt engineer it. So I get my practice with learning how to prompt engineer and create things. She actually creates 4 games, Breaking Bricks, Tetris, Asteroids, and Space Invaders. The nice thing about ChatGPT is you can generate these games automatically because ChatGPT knows what these games are. And so if you just create a prompt like, create this game, it will. And so we're going to do that in a moment and we're going to run it so you can see it running. Okay. And we're going to do Breaking Bricks, but I want to go to a course and just show it to you real quick. And it's a great course. And, kind of, if someone does something good, it's good just to learn to play. And so we'll go over to that and we'll go over to take a look at it real quick. and this is her course. I only went through the first game. I've done a lot of game programming in the past, so it's not something I really need to do. But what's really nice about her game is she goes through all the basics and you teach you all the basics and builds it up. So this first game, she doesn't have classes. It's the Breaking Bricks game, but the next one, she starts introducing classes. And as she goes through the game, she teaches you more and more complex Python. So I think game programming is a great way to have fun and understand the basics. Now, with that said, let's generate the Breaking Bricks game in Python. So the actual prompt will be create a break the bricks game using Python. Now I don't have to, because, in a sense, in this multidimensional space, um, it knows what this is. It's going to go right there and give me a perfectly working game. Okay, so I don't have to slice this space very much. It's like, think of this tree and there's just one thing under it because that's because it's so typical. And so Madeline made a comment. It says, "And is ChatGPT going to put coders out of work in the near future? Are we at the point where we are asking it to build applications using Python, Java, etc., and it does it, or is it just coding assistant?" It's more than a coding assistant, okay, but it's not a coding architect, Madeline. So you're still having to do the architect part where you're putting all the pieces together. Now, with that said, as we do more and more of this work, it's learning from us. So it's getting smarter all the time. I'll make the comment when ChatGPT first came out, it did not do Kubernetes. Now it does Kubernetes very well. So it is getting smarter. But yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to second that. I was going to second that with
Mm.
PondScript, specifically that you use for TradingView. They have their own language for the trading platform.
Yeah,
And the initial iteration of it back in January, the
yeah,
code was terrible.
yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah,
after it got more and more feedback, and then it's like it's up to speed with version 5, and it actually
yeah,
gives you a more usable MVP
yeah,
product that you can use and actually implement. But you still, like you said, you have to copy and paste and put the pieces together, and so
yeah.
you
You're
still have to have some working knowledge of it.
you're still the architect, and really it is that working knowledge is so valuable now. It's the syntax tactical stuff will handle all those basic things, and if there's an error, it'll fix the error, tell you what it is. But you really need to still have that architectural mindset. That's not going away, not for a while, I believe. All right, with that said, let's do another example. So we're going to actually code the brick game. So what I did is I went into brought up ChatGPT, and I put in the prompt, you know, create a break the brick game using Pygame. So I hit return. And there you go. It's going to start building it. Now, this particular game is full of a lot of classes and that and everything else with more complex um, than you would need for the PCEP exam. That's true, but it's a way to play with and get some knowledge of, and even you can even modify this game to make it better. And I like and if you couple this with the BIOS course, you really can learn a lot. So with that said, you can go ahead and copy this, and we can pull this into PyCharm for this one to get this to run. Okay. And so with that said, I copied the code and I put it into PyCharm. So here's PyCharm. And by the way, PyCharm is free for if you're using it commercially, you need to buy it. If you're using it in your company to build code, you need to buy it. But otherwise, you can download it for free. There's a community license, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So with that said, let's see here. I pasted it in my main. Here's the code that I got from ChatGPT, and you got about 146 lines of code there. And I ran it. And it's going to generate these. I'm not very good at this game, by the way. It kills it if you don't get it. So I got to concentrate. There you go. There you go. Let's break the brick. Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and kill it there. Now you may go, wow, this is really complicated. I can't understand this code. And so just ask ChatGPT to explain it. Explain the code above. I can say above, but it remembers what you just did. And so now you can go here and have it teach you how the code works. That's just so super cool. It's got to talk about classes, and you probably never heard of those before, but you get that, kind of that in your mind. And it may not be on the PCEP exam, but when you take this PCAP exam, you'll be all set up and ready to go for it. There you go. What do you think? Pretty cool, huh? 146 lines of code. Perfect. Not a single error. I love it. With that said, There are some free courses by the Python Institute. I have some links in the front that you can take a look at, and they also have a little user interface that you can actually program in. So a lot of people are trying to help you out to learn Python quickly, to come up to speed, and there's lots of tools to do that with. I have a short quiz for us to go through, actually 1/3 of the regular quiz. All these questions were generated by ChatGPT. All explanations generated by ChatGPT is all ChatGPT generated. So, and yes, you may use them. So I'm not going to copyright them. Any questions before we start the quiz? And then we have a game at the end. So I guess one thing I want to tell you guys is, don't be afraid of AI, right? Don't be afraid of it because it gives you wings. I mean, and if you embrace it, what used to be able to take you just out, weeks to do, you can do in just hours. So it gives you wings, and if you embrace it, you're going to have a fruitful future. But one of the issues I think that's kind of taking our breath away is that, we're on an exponential increase in technology. It's not linearly increasing. So this technology is going to come harder and faster. So embrace it. And with that said, I have 10 questions to go through that would be very similar as a mock exam for the PCEP exam. First question is, and you guys can answer these for me. What will be the output after the following code snippet? You got a list that is 5, 10, 20, 40. You got another list, which is basically going to do a slice at -2. And you got a list, then you're going to put the list as 0, and then you're going to print that list. What are you going to get? A, B, C, or D? 40, 20, 10, or 5? Oh, thank you so much. Ali said, this is such a great informative course. Thank you so much for teaching it. You're welcome. And we'll be putting up the video as well afterwards. So what do you think? A, B, C, or D? Anybody want to take a stab at it? B. And let's see what the answer is. The answer is actually D, 5. And so what happens in this, and it just explains the whole thing. So this is once again, ChatGPT explains the whole thing for you. Put the question in ChatGPT, explain it, run it in Google Colab. You can see that it's actually D. And here's what happens. The list is 5, 10, 20. Now, you're going to slice it. Now, -1 is the last element. -2 is the next element. So you're at 20. Okay. So but you don't use that one. So it's 5 and 10. So your list now becomes 5 and 10. And you're going to look at element 0, which would be 5. And this explains that to you. All right, let's go take a look at the next one. All right. What will be the output of the following code? So you have a function, which is sample. And you're going to let y1 equals y -2. And you're going to return true if that's true or false if that's false. So is it false, true? Because you have two of them. Print is same, this matrix, or print is same, this matrix. So excuse me, list. So false, true, 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 false, false, true, false. A, B, C, or D. What do you think? What do you think? A, B, C, or D. What do you think? Someone said D would be true, false. Let's see what it would be. Real quick here. We'll take a look at the solution for you real quick. The answer is D. That's true, false. Correct. And that's because if you look at the first element, that's 20. But if you look at minus, you go 1, 2, that's 20. So those two are equal. You look at the first element, that's 20 because it starts with 0. So that's 0 is the first element. Second element, so I'm trying to say, is 1. So the second element is 20. Here is it's 20. The second element here is 20. And back 2 is 40. So that's true, false, correct. And here's the explanation as well. Once again, all generated by ChatGPT. All right, which of the following statements is true? arg1 equals 5, 6, 7, 8, and arg2 equals 1, slice 3. So what do you think? A, B, C, or D? arg2 is longer than arg1. Excuse me. Well, we can cross that out immediately because we know we're slicing it, so it's going to be smaller. arg2 has fewer elements than arg1. Well, that's pretty true because you sliced it, right? arg1 and arg2 have the same length. No, because you sliced it, right? So arg1 and arg2 are two different lists. Well, that's correct. So what happens is there's a few things that are important here. Yeah, it is two of them. It is both B and D. And the reason for that, and there's an important thing you need to realize. If you had set one list equal to another one, which is the same list, then they both have the same reference. But whenever you slice, it changes the reference, creates a new list. Keep that in mind. That's the note right here. But when you slice this, basically you're taking the first element, 1, which is here, and the second element was a 7. But the third element, I'm saying element, excuse me, the third position, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. It starts at the 0 position, first position, second position, third position. You're just taking 6 and 7. That's your matrix, because it doesn't take the last element on the slice. So you can see it's B and D. Someone please mute your mic. Okay, so that one's correct. Let's go to the next one real quick here. What will be the output of the code A equals 7, B equal 8, C equal 6? When you print A equal B, and that's double equals, which will give you a true or false, or C, which will give you a number. What do you think? A, B, C, or D? Is it 0, 6, false, or true? Someone said D, true. Someone said B, 6. And you are correct, Madeline. It is B. It is 6. And why is that? ChatGPT will explain that to you. Okay. Hold on. I got too anal here. All right. So basically what's happening is we know B is not equal to A, so that's false, or C. C is truthy. So it sees it as basically in Python, a value considered truthy if it evaluates to true. So you C is 6. So the answer is 6. Absolutely. All right. The next one is what will be the output of the following code? So you've got these sets. You got set A, which is 3, 4, 5, set B, which is 5, 6, 7, and you're going to have a list D that you will most likely be appending to. And you're going to run a for loop with an if, and you're going to append to the list, and you're going to print the list. So this is a little bit more of a complicated one, right? So you have to run through the logic of that. So what do you think? A, is it 3, 4, 6, 7? B, is it curly brackets 3, 4, 5, 6? C, is it a list 3, 4, or is it D, is it 3, 4 curly brackets? So you see what you're doing, you're appending to a list. So immediately you know that it's not going to be B and it's not going to be D, it's going to be A or C. So which one do you think? And Russ says C. And Russ, you are correct. And if you need the logic on how that works, you can see that ChatGPT more than readily tells you how it works. Isn't that amazing? I mean, my goodness. Do you know how much time it would take me to write this as an instructional designer? And it's just spewing out. Now, to the point made earlier, I think, Russ, is that I need to be able to understand what I'm looking at, right? That's what's important. That's what's valuable, that I understand it is right, okay? Because sometimes ChatGPT will give you wrong answers, especially if it doesn't have much of a curated database or curated training set, right, in that area. And I'll give you an example. If you do Azure professional exam, for example, you'll get about 90% correct on any questions that you put in that. If you do the network, the AWS network, you put questions in the ChatGPT you only get about 7% correct on that. So it doesn't have that much of a database on the Azure networking exam. Yeah. So you have to know if what ChatGPT is telling you is true or not. So takes a little bit of work there and a large knowledge base. Here's the explanation on that. We'll move on to the next question. What will be the output of the following code? So def apt function, apt is the Greek word for true function. Global value, print value times 3, and value equals 7, value equal 2, apt function, print value. Now, if you take Adrian's course, he goes through this type of logic, and you will learn what all this means and when. Anyone got a guess on this one? 26, 2, 2, 1, 4, 6, 7, 6, 1, 4. What do you think? You're gonna get printed twice. You have value 2. You're gonna run the apt function first. You're gonna do a print, and then you're gonna run a print value at the end. What do you think? Anybody got a guess? A, B, C, or D? All right, D. And D, I believe, would not be the correct answer. But I think Lisa, you also said C. So, and Russ said C. C would be the correct answer, because what happens is you run through it first. Okay, the global value has not been set. Okay, so you have value which comes from here. So 2 times 3 is 6. And now you set the value and you run again, right? And the value is 7. So the answer would be C. And and the explanations there, it runs through it for you. All right, we're getting close. We've got 6. Number 7. This is a recursion problem, and we saw one earlier, but there's a little bit of a difference here. As opposed to returning 1, it's returning 2. So what will be the output of the following code? So you got your function here, we call it factor function, where if x equals 1, then return 2, that's when you get the last value, and return x star factor function x minus 1, which is typically is a factorial with the twist, as opposed to multiplying by 2 at the end, by 1 at the end, you multiply by 2 at the end. So what do you think the answer is? A, B, C, or D? And you're going to do the factorial function by putting in 4. So what do you think, A, B, C, or D? All right, we're going to go to that one real quick. The answer of it is, well, 4 times 3 times 2. Someone said A. I see. Someone said A. Let's see if it's 6. That would not be correct. Or did you say the answer? Let's take a look at it. So A is not right because it's 4 times 3 times 2. That's times 1. That's factorial, but this is 4 times 2 times 3 times, well, it sees 1. It's going to multiply by 1, but it doesn't do that because it says if it's 1, return 2, so it multiplies by 2. So it's 4 times 3 times 2 times 2, and that equals 48. And this explains the whole problem for you. Okay, cool. With that said, this really just drives me crazy. I look at it, oh my goodness. And this is a nice little, I call it an array because I see the square bracket, but it's a list. And so, and it asks you the question, it wants you to print C and Y2 second. Okay. And so if you, once again, if you go through Adrian's course, he's going to explain all the details on how to understand what you're looking at. But does anyone want to take a guess at this one before I give the answer? A is false, B is true, C is Python will show an error, or D is B, colon 200. What do you think? Someone said C, Python will show an error. Actually, that would not be correct. And the way this works is the first thing you're going to look at element 2. So that's 0, 1, 2. So you're looking at the dictionary, right? And then you're going to look at the second key. And look at the second key. And it says in the second key, which gives you this A, B, C, and D, is C in the second key. And indeed, C is in the second key. So the answer would be true. I know it's a complicated one. But here's the explanation if you want to take a look at it. Okay. So B is the answer, and it's true. All right, let's take a look at the next one. All right, we just got a few more here. Number 9. I like this one quite a bit. It's a fun one. What will be the output of the following code when the user enters 2, 3, and then 4? What do you think? I love this one, by the way. 2, 3, and then 4. What will be the output? Someone said C, and you are correct, Lisa. So what happens here? This is a fun one. Whenever you enter something into input, it makes it a string. So if you want it to be a number, you have to use the int. So X will be a number, Y will be a number, but Z is still a string. Okay. So that's really interesting. So what happens is, in the first part, this is a number. So X plus Y will be equal to 2 plus 3, which is 5. But this multiplication, if it's a string, it's going to, in a sense, multiply it as a string 4 times. That's pretty cool. And so this is 4. And so 5 times 4, which is X plus Y, is 5. Oh, it's 4 multiplied 5 times. So pretty cool. And here's the explanation of that. And it's pretty cool. I like that one a lot. Now, here's one I thought was really complicated. And I actually, what I did is I had a problem that was simpler than this, and I prompted it to, I said, make this more difficult. So I said, upgrade this problem and make it more difficult, and it created this one. I thought, oh, that's really complicated. And so I couldn't figure it out because it had this if m equals n, and it's n greater than the 0, and the 0, it's not 0, O, and O is being loaded by the range 4 through 8. And so, that's complicated. So I asked ChatGPT to explain it. And now, oh, it makes total sense. The answer is 10. Well, that's not enough for me. I need to learn this more because I had difficulty with that. I need to entertain myself, so I'm going to create a game. So what I said, okay, create a learning game from this problem. So that's exactly what I did. So let's go to Colab and take a look at that. And I found out that it really helps to create these learning games because you start just thinking about things differently, right? And you just start enjoying them. And we love the endorphin of getting something right. And so Ash Stringer asked me, how do you think the advent and improvement of these generative AI tools will impact entry-level developer positions and people seeking those positions? Ash Stringer, I think people are talking about this now. And I believe that what's going to happen is it's going to change to an architect mindset. It's got to, because all of these specifics, all the syntax is just being done by these machines. Now, we've already seen this happen on a lower scale, okay? I'm an old guy. I've been in programming for a long time, and my first exposure to computers, there were not such a thing. In high school, we had slide rulers, and then we had calculators. And then when I went to college, they created a new degree called computer science, and everyone thought that wasn't a real degree. And then what happened when I went into the Air Force, I got a conversion degree where I became electrical engineer and computer science. And the computer language that I learned was machine language. Okay. I no longer program in machine language. Matter of fact, none of us do. And if I had stayed, if that's all I did all my life was a machine learning programmer, I might not have a job right now. So I had to move on with the technology. And you're seeing on a grander scale kind of that happening now where all these syntactical things are being handled. I mean, like I've said, we've solved the Tower of Babel problem. And not only can we speak to everybody and getting all the nuances as well, it can code. And so now that it can do that, yeah, you're going to see these jobs kind of turn to the way we learn coding, the way we think about coding, move toward an architect mindset. Yeah, good point. Hard point too. But it's going to, yeah. I think you're still good for the next 5 years coming in as a computer programmer, but you're going to see it challenged. Yeah. Russ says, does PCEP certification have any value for employers? I really appreciate you asking this because you really kind of caught me with it. Will it be a plus on your resumes, or it might signal to employer that you are a newbie in Python? I've actually seen such options miniaturized that such certifications are useless. Yeah, and if you go to the YouTube, Russ, by the way, you're going to see the top 10 useless certifications, and this will be one of them. Okay. With that said, the reason I did this was because we're going to do LangChain next. And this is all the knowledge that you need to do LangChain. Okay. So basically, I'll put this in here that, I did the PCEP as a prep for LangChain. Okay. All right. And if you know anything about LangChain, those jobs are between $200,000 and $400,000 a year. So, I mean, you might want to learn that technology. So when we do LangChain next time, you would be prepped all by it already because you had the PCB, introductory, right? So you have the introductory Python. So yeah, so absolutely, you put it in the wastebasket with the top 10 worthless certifications. But if you learn LangChain because now you know PCEP, forget it. It's a killer, and we'll teach you LangChain next time we get together. Did that answer your question, Russ? By the way, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. There's a method in my madness, okay, or a madness in my method. I'm not sure which one. Okay, with that said, let me just grab some of this code, okay, real quick, and show you the first game. So I actually just create a game for me, and it got me off there a little bit. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this code. So this was the first game that I created, and it threw an error, and I want to talk about what happens when you throw an error. Oh, Tim Foster says, thank you so much for the course and your time. I look forward to the next one. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. Oh, thank you, Tim. Thanks for attending. I appreciate it so much. We got about 12 minutes left, and I'll wrap up in plenty of time. With that said, I'll go ahead and grab this. Now, it turns out I have a difficult time copying and pasting directly from PowerPoint. So for some reason, when I put in ChatGPT, it cleans it up. So now we're going to go live. We're going to run the first little piece of game. So I said, create a game. And it wrote a game for me automatically. And then let's put that game in there. And then make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. And then I'm going to go ahead and run that game. So I go to the top. Okay. So the game says, welcome to Loop Learner. Guess how many times X will be printed? And so you have for the range 1 to 7, print X. So it's really simple. And I say, well, I know when I see these, I just subtract the 2. So it's 6, right? So let's put 6 in there. And it says, hey, correct, you got it. And say, do you want to play again? I do. So I'm going to put yes in there. When I do there, I get an error. All right. And so now it might take me a while to figure out and fix this error, but I don't need to do that because ChatGPT will fix that error for me. Okay. So I look for that type error. There it is. Here's my error right here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create a prompt to fix this error. So I go to the next one and I say, okay, I'm gonna go say code shows error when run. Fix the problem. Okay. Solution equal, and so I show what the error is. The problem, solution, self-generated problem. So I said fix the problem. So I ran the code, and ChatGPT immediately gives me back an answer and fixes the problem. So I throw that prompt into ChatGPT. We won't do it for time's sake, but I did that. I got this code back. Let's put this code in. And now let's run this code in Python. And it says, okay, welcome to Loop Learner. Okay, wonderful. Guess how many X's will be printed? So I said, well, the difference between those two is 3, should be 3, right? And it says, do you want to play again? I said, yes. But it does take me to the next level without the error, but it doesn't give me anything. And I need something to put in there. So that's also another issue. So I'm going to tell ChatGPT that was a problem. Please fix that for me. So I go to the next one and I go, hey, after the fix, applying yes, got message, no problem available for this level. Fix by adding in an available level. So I throw this into ChatGPT and run it. All right, so I can do that. Let me just do that. Actually, I'm going to just copy the code from here that was run. So I threw the ChatGPT and I ran it, and this was the code that got ran. And now I'm going to, and the reason I'm pasting this into ChatGPT right now is because I'm having a problem pasting from PowerPoint, but for some reason when I paste in ChatGPT and copy, it goes right into, so I'm actually not really, I'm just using ChatGPT to clean the text is what I'm doing right now. So let's bring up the code, Google Colab, and let's put this in. Okay, paste this code in, and let's run it. When I did that, what happened was that it actually fixed the issue. And so it said, welcome to Game Looper. Guess how many times X will be printed? And then you can see the difference with those two is 7. So I said 7. Would you like to play again? And so it gave me an error there. So when I said fix it using this prompt, then I ran it again and said, welcome loop learner. Guess how many times X occurs? So here it will be 5. Correct. Would you like to play again? I said yes. In this case, it gave me the next one. And you can see it gave me a double loop here where I had to guess. My answer was 2, right? And that was correct. Would you like to play again? Now, at this point, it's fixed it to the second level. So now if I wanted to do more, right, I'd probably need to go in there and re-engineer that whole leveling, right, and how it chooses, the syntax for the question. And you can see it gave me one that was a little bit more complicated, but it actually was kind of hard-coded into the code. But you can see it's writing all this, it's understanding what I'm asking. And given that this is pretty much still out of the box, it's going to be pretty amazing at the end of the year when ChatGPT 5 comes out. And that has, I can get 187 trillion parameters, something like that. So this stuff is, just getting better all the time. So that's pretty much what I wanted to do was to show you about writing these games, how you can play and entertain yourself, and how you can create code and how easy it is to prompt engineer stuff in ChatGPT. With that said, you're empowered now to start coding. So as opposed to the old days, right, where you would have to take 3 years of learning syntax, because it takes about 10 years to train a good programmer. The first 3 years learning syntax and you're starting writing useful stuff, you can immediately start writing code now, right? And it's really about learning how everything fits together. Think of yourself as a puzzle maker. You're learning how the pieces fit together. And so it really takes you to the next level, where not only what you can create is just the syntactical correctness, but you can create the next user experience, right? And Liz, thank you so much for your comment. Grizz says, thank you, Mike, for the presentation. Love it as always. Thank you, Liz. Please come back again. We're going to be doing LangChain next time, which will be extremely useful. Yeah. Thanks for taking time to teach us to learn the Python PCEP coding using prompt GTP. Yes. Excellent. Good, good, good. So that's the presentation. We have 5 minutes for questions. So any questions, guys? Thanks, Michael. This is Sri. Appreciate your teaching. Always learn something new. Good. I'm glad you did, Sri. Please start using AI. Yeah, generative AI. It'll and use it for what works for you. I mean, it's not going to do everything for you right now, right? Liz says thanks again. Thank you, Liz. But it's actually going to use it for what can enhance your work. Okay. Russ says it was very interesting. Thank you. Thanks, Russ. It's good. I think it was your first time, Russ. Thanks for coming. Yeah. See you next time. Yeah, LangChain. If you're gonna come. Come to LangChain. You're going to learn about vector databases. That will blow you out of the water. I mean, without doing all the data training, you have vector databases, but you can add to your systems. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation, Astrid Stringer. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Yeah. I got 3 more minutes. Anyone got a burning question? I'm here. I'm here to answer anything you guys want to know. Madeline says, I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah, I am too. This stuff is fantastic. Go ahead.
I do have a question. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you can answer it.
I
If
will
I
do my
were,
best. I will do my best.
well, no, just because I know things are changing and I came about 15 minutes late, so you might have
Mhm,
started talking about this.
mhm.
Let's say you write books for a living and you need some images for the book. It can people use Dolly currently to make images,
Let me
using AI
let
and then use those images freely at that point?
This is getting better and better, okay? And have you heard about oh golly, Firefly, Adobe Firefly?
Yes.
It has this, it's a massive image creator and they're using all their own it's all copyright free because they're using their images, okay? So if you're going to create images on the fly and you're worried about the copyright, try Firefly, okay? So if you're a student and you get Adobe Suite for $12 a month. If you're not, you pay a little bit more, of course. Also, I want to introduce you to were you here when I talked about Bing Chat? Bing Chat?
I don't know.
Oh, Madeline, sorry. I just want to say hi, Madeline. I make sure I'm addressing you. So anyway, this is Microsoft Edge, right? And so and you can see this little B, it means it's powered by Bing. And so in the Bing search, you see more creative right here. And that's going to allow you to create images. So what kind of image would you like to make, Madeline?
I'd love to have images of AI.
Image of a robot uh, creating an AI Python program. It's thinking. So it's this
Great.
way.
So you're saying Firefly is free for commercial use, whatever images you create from that.
If if you use the Adobe Firefly, okay, then it's going to be they're saying free for commercial use. A
Okay.
lot of this stuff is still kind of being challenged. Now, this is Bing. Okay, so Bing created this for me. So, and once again, is this free for commercial use? I use them. And they're saying they are, but right now a lot of this stuff's being challenged in court. So I said, image of a robot creating an AI Python program. What do you think? Not too bad, huh?
I think that's wonderful. It would probably take a graphic artist many
Absolutely.
hours to
No,
create
and
something like that.
they would not create something. They would not be able to. And so what you're seeing, now it's using its brain to create it. There you go. That's kind of funky. Looks like an ant. But I like this one. My favorite one right there. Matter of fact, I'm going to copy this. I like this one so much. I'll use it. I should use this for my LangChain program. So yeah, so if you use right now, this is Bing. It's all free. So you just go bring up your Edge browser, hit Bing's, and go to the creative part and tell it what image you want it to create, and it'll create it for you. It's limited somewhat, but this is getting smarter. And Adobe is actually doing some incredible work in this area. And so what Adobe's doing, they're actually taking a different approach on these images, and they're creating 3D stuff. And from that, you can create movies. So you're getting to the point where you can tell it to do something, it'll create a movie. Now, these movies right now are only like 3 seconds long, but they're getting longer and they're doing work in this area. So in the area of graphic design, I mean, this is going to be really challenging for a lot of graphic designers because stuff would take, you'd pay a lot of money for it, to get this image. It's just free right off the web. I believe you want to take a look at the copyright here. I believe this is all being challenged in court right now, right? But I think that Adobe Firefly allows you, it's not going to be challenged because they're using their own images. They're not using images uh, from the overall internet.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sure, thank you. Well, thanks so much for attending. I will see you guys next month. Thanks, Michael, says Chris. I will catch you next time. Please do. I mean, you don't want to miss LangChain. It's going to be pretty cool. I've been programming away on LangChain. It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. See you soon. Thanks, Liz. Bye. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for attending. I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you in about a month. Bye-bye.